welcome to Sydney Kingsford Smith International Airport. Directly behind me is the displaced threshold of runway 07 and the westerly gates of the international terminal. Today I will be flying on Qantas in their economy class product bound for the South Island of New Zealand. Having arrived at the airport after finishing work no less than 45 minutes ago, with just over 2 hours to departure, it's time that I make my way to the South Island of New Zealand from my home in Sydney, rather than in Melbourne like last time. If you are new to my channel, I am from Sydney, and as such, Kingsford Smith International Airport is my home airport. Much like most airports that predate the 50s, Sydney Airport has undergone massive changes in its existence. In the 40s, the surrounding landscape was much like how it used to be, with the Cooks River snaking through where the current cross runway is, which interestingly enough was the first main runway built. This was then followed by the north-south runway in the 60s, and finally the third runway in the mid-90s, completing this airport's iconic shape. As stated in my introduction, today I shall be flying with Qantas on a standard 737 flight across the Tasman Sea. Qantas uses the Bravo, Charlie and Delta check-in areas here at Sydney, with dedicated check-in lanes and sections for all classes. Economy check-in is limited to kiosk only, which there are plenty of scattered around. I counted around 35, but there could be more. I found the international check-in kiosks to be significantly better than the domestic ones, with these ones actually able to print boarding passes, bag tags and more, like they're supposed to. I will be honest, the only fault I have for these kiosks is that the boarding passes printed are plain white, rather than the red and white ones that domestic passengers receive. After a successful check-in, I made my way forward towards bag drop, which, just like check-in, was surprisingly empty and took no time at all. Here at Terminal 1, there are only two entrances to the security checkpoint, one on the left and one on the right. Most passengers typically end up using the one on the right hand side, leaving the left one rather empty. Unfortunately, due to Australian law, I am not allowed to film in the customs area, so I have nothing to show. Post-security and immigration is the usual duty-free shopping, and instead of parking myself in a lounge like usual, I actually did some shopping around for some cheap booze and chocolate at the request of some friends that I'd be visiting in New Zealand. After passing the weirdest sculpture of all time is several high-end luxury shops like Prada, Bulgari and Rolex, none of which I was interested in as I am not in the right tax bracket for that stuff. Getting to the western gates from the security checkpoint can take a bit of time, as it is quite far. So I would recommend you give yourself plenty of time if you ever have to depart from gates 51 and beyond. Upon arriving at the western gates was the aircraft waiting on stand to take me across the Tasman to Christchurch, which today is a Boeing 737-800, registered as Victor Hotel X-Ray Zulu Papa. She was built brand new for Qantas in November of 2014, and she was never painted in Qantas' standard livery, only ever sporting this awesome retro livery, making this aircraft 10 years old. Boarding this evening commenced at gate 54 and was rather late due to late arriving crew, and they certainly weren't happy about it when I saw them walking down the jet bridge. Qantas' 737-800s all have the same configuration, with 12 recliner business class seats in a 2-2 layout, and 162 standard economy class seats in a 3-3 layout. This evening I shall be seated in 10 Foxtrot on the right hand side. The economy class seat has 30 inches of pitch and 17.2 inches of width. There is a standard tray table that folds down and extends. In the seat back pocket you'll find a safety card, magazine, air sickness bag and headphones. Above are individual reading lights, air vents and a flight attendant call button. The seats have individual recline buttons located on the armrest, and the seats recline approximately 5 inches. There are also adjustable headrests.
Hi, and welcome to my magic place, Litchfield National Park.
Soon the safety briefing commenced, and we started our pushback from gate 54, 54 minutes behind our scheduled departure time.
With the magnificent whale sharks of Ningaloo Reef, and you have masks on board too. If oxygen is required, a mask will drop from above. Pull down firmly.
We taxied to runway 34 right via Golf 2, Golf, Charlie, Bravo 10, Sierra, Tango and Tango 6.
Qantas 139 at 184 right, sir, cleared for takeoff.
Now please enjoy this unedited takeoff. After takeoff, we spun around to the right over the eastern suburbs of Sydney, setting up a southeasterly course for Christchurch. Flight time tonight is 2 hours and 33 minutes, covering a distance of 1,344 miles or 2,163 kilometers, cruising at 38,000 feet. After takeoff and leaving Sydney behind, in the distance was the fairly large New South Wales city of Wollongong, approximately 70 kilometres south of Sydney. On the back of every economy class seat is a fairly small touch entertainment screen, with surprisingly a very limited amount of movies or TV shows to watch. Without the entertainment app on your phone, it is impossible to watch anything other than the most recently added movies, of which there were approximately 10 choices, and were really rather boring, which was a massive disappointment in my opinion. Roughly half of the Qantas 737 fleet has these entertainment screens, and honestly, I would not recommend them. Bring your own content. The cabin crew advertised during boarding that there was free Wi-Fi throughout the entire flight to New Zealand, which I was a little bit skeptical about, as this has never been the case in the past, which I quickly realized after takeoff in that was true. Soon the crew came around offering dinner, to which we had three options: a tabbouleh salad, pearl couscous, or chicken with potatoes. I opted for the pearl couscous, which came with green beans and steamed carrots, and was actually rather delicious. According to the other passengers in my row, it was the best choice out of the three, as the chicken was apparently very dry and the tabbouleh had little to no seasoning. As we continued across the Tasman, I became extremely bored, as there was practically nothing to do, because there was, well, nothing on the entertainment screen worth watching, so I opted to get a quick power nap. On board the aircraft are 3 bathrooms, 2 at the back for economy and 1 at the front for business. Inside is everything typical of this aircraft type, including that of the Qantas branded hand soap. Just prior to landing, the cabin crew handed out Lindt dark chocolate balls, which were pretty good, but not the usual flavour I would go for. I prefer milk or white chocolate. Soon we commenced our descent into Christchurch. Due to the lateness of the day, pretty much nothing could be visible outside, except for the winglet, engine nacelles and the occasional flicker of lights from the small towns below. It also didn't help that because of our flight path, which was taking us to the south of Christchurch, all I could see, if it were light, would be the southern Pacific Ocean. Eventually, the landing lights were switched on, and the city of Christchurch came into view, and I knew that we would be landing very shortly. Now please enjoy this unedited landing. After landing, we taxied back to the international terminal via Alpha 3 and Alpha. We pulled into gate 28, 45 minutes behind our scheduled arrival time. As I stepped off the aircraft, I thanked the crew for their great service, but others weren't so pleased. I distinctly remember hearing a lot of people complaining about the lack of their meal choice, and one particular passenger noted that the cleanliness of the plane, which I noticed myself. Prior to tonight's flight, this aircraft had flown in from Port Moresby earlier on in the day, and honestly the state of the aircraft was absolutely shocking. There was practically rubbish everywhere. The cleaners very clearly did not do a thorough job in cleaning the aircraft, and there were times when I was actually disgusted at the state of the aircraft. The entertainment system was frankly a massive letdown, and not only did the entertainment have limited options, half the time you couldn't get the screen to work, as the system is so old and outdated. I eventually gave up trying to work it, so I just switched it off. In hindsight, I could have used the remote, but at the time I didn't really think of that. The crew also falsely advertised the free Wi-Fi. Whether this was due to poor training, I will never know. However, I was not impressed, as I have flown with Qantas internationally before, and I was already aware that there would be no Wi-Fi regardless. It was just a disappointment that inaccurate information was being passed on to the passengers. Honestly, I could go on and on about every little detail that Qantas did not do right today. However, I will spare you from my whinging and tell you something somewhat positive, which was the food. I decided for once to have the vegetarian option for the simple reason that I've never had vegetarian food before, and I'm quite glad that I gave it a go, because it was very good. Overall, a pretty terrible flight with Qantas, honestly, and I'm hoping that with the delivery of their new A321 extra long ranges in the coming months, Qantas will be able to retire these old and worn aircraft. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment and subscribe. Make sure to check out the other videos I have on my YouTube channel, and also I now have a Discord server. Feel free to join, the link is at the top of the description. And don't forget to ring that notification bell if you enjoy my content, and if you would like to see more, I post my videos every Friday at 8 PM Sydney time, and I hope to see you again in the next one. See you later!